Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Sri Vishesha Shunnavadi Pasadya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Nitai Sachishan Dada Nitai Sachishan Dada Nitai Sachishan Jaya Nitai Sachishan Jaya Nitai Sachishan Nitai Sachishan Dada Nitai Sachishan Jaya Nitai Sachishan Jai Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev. Jaya Gurudev, Jai, Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Gurudev. Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Muna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamini Namaste, Saraswati Devi Gauru Nubacharina Nivishesha Shunyavadi Bhastyati Deshatarina. Welcome Amit, welcome Prakash, and welcome Vijay. Hare Krishna. So where did we stop last time? Of course, Amit, you're always missing a verse of Saturday, but here we go. Last time, our verse was Bhagavad Gita 6, 11 and 12. So may I just read that translation, just a translation, to just get us connected to our last session. We're still at the yoga chapter, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. And that's text 6, 11 to 12. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. So that was last, I do believe so, last verse. And the next verse is 13, 14. We had that verse. I don't know what happened. We had a string of verses coming now. Let me share that screen. A string of verses which we all have done previously. So, and we won't go over them again. Let me just read. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, a mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material activities. We have done that verse as well. Let's go to 16. Also a very well-known verse which we covered. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Now we're skipping ahead. And that's also a verse we had covered. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Okay, Hare Krishna. Amit, can you do us a little service of the Sanskrit?
Yes, Prabhu, I can. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate.
Bhagavata, sorry. I was thinking in my head, I got to get it
Yes,
right.
yes,
Bhagavata.
Bhagavate.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatta Viniyatam Chittam Atmane Ivatiste.
Okay, read that again. Second line.
Yev
No,
Avastiste.
second line. Can you read the second line again?
Atma Yeva Tishate Nispra Sarve
Sarve?
Kambaya.
Sarve?
Sarve Kambayo.
Sarva.
Sarva. Sorry, Sarva, yeah. Nispra Sarva Kamabya. Bio.
Mhm.
Yukta Ite Yechete.
Same here. Same here. One moment. It's like not Atmani Eva was Atmanyeva was yesterday. Here's the same. There is a Y and followed by a vowel by a U. It joins. So read it now. Yukta.
Yukta Yuti Yechete.
It yuchyate.
It Yuchete, yeah. It's okay. It Yuchete.
Tada.
Tada.
Okay. Thank you. Translation.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activity and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. The professional stage can automatically be attained by Krishna and Krishna consciousness as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Look, the stress is on the A.
Bhagavatam.
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 Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam. There's a lot of
Okay, if I
Sanskrit.
miss the Sanskrit, probably there's quite a lot of Sanskrit there.
Yes, yes, it will. Let's carry on.
King Ambadisha first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord. His hands in moping the temple of the Lord, his ears in the hearing of the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smelling the sense of the lotus flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to place the pilgrimage in the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desire in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by the follower of the impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description and engagement of the Maharaja and Barista. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called Arcana,
Archana.
Archana, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and mind require engagement. Simple abnegation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and mind are prescribed. Transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Amit. Hare Krishna. Amaginati Mirandasya Kananchana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Datadi Swabadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrachadham Zahakana Ragunatanvitam Tam Sachivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagadapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupescha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudi Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. That's a translation again. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So here we have a contrast, quite a clear contrast, how the same goal can be achieved. The goal of connecting with Krishna, with a super soul in the heart. So that is the process of devotional service, of making our connection with Krishna. It's also the process of yoga, but the way of how to do it is quite significantly different. In the yoga practice, the yogi must discipline his mind so he can, or sitting like Amit.
Prabhu, can you just, is it possible you can just share that paragraph about the different devotion? I just wanted to read that bit again.
Which paragraph was that?
I'll show you. Where all his senses were following all different directions.
Okay, that's Ambarish Maharaj, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We will discuss that in a minute. Yes. So the approach is quite different. The yoga approach is just trying to control the mind by sitting there with half-closed eyes, staring on the tip of the nose, and some Hatha Yoga breathing exercises, with the goal of shutting off the mind. And Krishna says in a previous verse in the yoga chapter, the yogi who perfectly controls his mind, the super soul, is already reached. So by mental discipline and by asana and yoga practice, one can achieve the goal of reaching the super soul. But the devotee, in a positive, not negative, not this, not that, disciplining the mind, not letting the images of this world enter the mind, letting the sounds and the sight and the touch and just abnegating all these bodily, what's the word, sensations, not to disturb one's meditation. But King Ambarish, as you pointed out that paragraph, he does just the opposite. He is not trying to see anything, not trying to not act. No, he's not shutting his eyes. He is not trying to not smell anything which could agitate the senses. He's not trying to not taste anything which again is arousing the senses. He's just doing the opposite, but fixed on Krishna. So King Ambarish, he's engaging his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So he thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. We can all do that. We can think of Krishna, and particular of Krishna's lotus feet, as which I pointed out some last time. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So he's not sitting there in silent meditation. No, he's speaking. He's speaking, describing the Lord's qualities, pastimes, glories, opulences, and so much more. So he's actively engaging his senses, while the yogi is actively trying to avoid using his senses. That's a big, big difference. Yoga, trying to avoid using the senses, and devotional service, engaging the senses, but in transcendental service of the Lord. Then he is not just sitting still, not acting in any way, just like a statue in his yoga asana. Very hard to do that. But he's doing the opposite. His hands, he's engaging in mopping the temple of the Lord. He's going to the temple, he's cleaning the temple, a cloth, a mop. And his hands in Vrindavan, they do that so nicely. They don't have a mop on a stick. They have a cloth in a bucket and rinsing that cloth and wringing it out, and then down on the knees or bending down, and then by hand mopping the stairs, mopping the courtyard, mopping the floor. So that he did. The result is the same. What is the desired result? Of fixing the mind on Krishna. The yogi trying to do that by shutting off the senses, and the devotee is doing that by using the senses and his hands in mopping the floor. Jayantibai, welcome. Ritua and Prabhuji, welcome. And then the devotee in devotional service, or in this case, King Maharaj Ambarish, he engages his ears in hearing about the activities of the Lord. So positively engaging his ears, while the yogi is trying to shut off hearing anything. Therefore, the yogi is advised to go in the jungle, in the forest, in the Himalayas, where no distraction of sound, just natural sound of the birds, but no other sounds are disturbing him. And the devotee, Maharaj Ambarish, he is hearing about the activities of the Lord. He's not shutting his eyes, Maharaj Ambarish, like the yogi, half eyes sitting erect and eyes half closed. Not too much to fall asleep, not too open to be distracted and staring on the tip of the nose. So we have had all these verses. That's a yogi process. It's very, very difficult for us here in cities and in this age, very difficult. So the devotee, or with the example of Maharaj Ambarish, he is engaging his eyes, not closing his eyes. He's opening his eyes, seeing the transcendental form of the Lord. Seeing the deity. By seeing the deity, automatically the mind gets fixed on Krishna. So much more difficult of closing the eyes and trying to discipline the senses and the mind. Then he engages his body in touching the bodies of the devotees. That's also very nice. Not just to touching the bodies of the non-believers and of the materially contaminated, no, of devotees. Hugging the devotees, touching the devotees, touching their feet. Sometimes devotees do that also. So a positive process. Then, what about the sense of smell? Not that the yogi is not trying to smell anything, being distracted from his meditation. No, the devotee is smelling the sense of lotus flowers offered to the Lord. So the next is the tongue. So all the senses, one after another. The tongue engaged in tasting the tulsi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. The tulsi leaves are very, very potent. And we do remember the story of Chai and Vijay, who were attached to the impersonal conception. And somehow or other they smelled the tulsi leaves offered to the Lord's lotus feet, and that attracted them to Krishna, to Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha. Just smelling the tulsi leaf. So tulsi is very potent. And tulsi leaf that has been offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. So what about his legs? His legs is engaging his legs, going to places of pilgrimage. There are many places of pilgrimage. Vrindavan, Navadvip, Mayapur, Ayodhya, and so on. Many places of pilgrimage. Going around Govardhan Hill. So his legs are engaged in a positive way. His head is engaged in offering obeisances unto the Lord. Why the head? Because the head is touching the ground. When we offer proper obeisances, we touch the ground with our head. So it's a positive process by offering obeisances. And his desires, engaging his desires, everybody has desires. So the devotee engages his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. So we have to know what's the mission of the Lord, and then we have the desire to help Krishna fulfill that mission. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. Okay, I thought I shared that screen. I didn't, did I, Amit? No, I didn't. Okay. So, quite a big difference with negating the senses of the yogi, all of them, and fixing the mind on the super soul in the heart, and the devotional service, not negating the senses, one could say, negating the senses from material engagement, but engaging the senses in the transcendental service of the Lord. So that is the contrast here in this verse of Bhagavad Gita. Then Srila Prabhupada speaks briefly about the impersonalist path. It's very difficult. Srila Prabhupada points out it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness. Like we have just gone through Maharaj Ambarish, how he used to engage all the senses in the service of the Lord. Then Srila Prabhupada writes, unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. That's very important. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. By constant remembrance. Always think of me, worship me, of your obeisances. Manmana bhava mat bhakto. So the mind needs to be fixed. Else it's not very practical. Fixed in remembrance. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada points out, these prescribed activities are called archana. Archana, of course, means deity worship. Archana, we spoke about archana, deity worship. It's such a beautiful process because it engages all our senses. Like deity worship at home can be done like Rituan, Prabhu, and Amritarati Mataji, deity worship at home. Archana, beautiful deities, dressing, bathing the deities in some regular way, once a week, twice a week, every day, whichever is practical. And doing arti, whole family comes together doing arti, offering incense and flowers and gilam, and the whole family is engaged, like a temple. So at home, like a little temple program. This can all be done. And if someone doesn't have deities, then a picture altar will also do. One can offer one's food to the picture. One can offer incense and ghee lamp and flower to the picture. Arti, one can do arti to the picture. So these are all meant to engage all our senses, like with King Ambarish, in the service of the Lord, and getting used to engaging our senses in the service of the Lord. Because our senses are, since time immemorial, so contaminated and covered by the modes of material nature. We only have been using our senses for our own satisfaction for such a long time. So to focus the senses on Krishna, it needs a process. Like deity worship is very, very important. Because that's a very easy process where we can fix the mind on Krishna. And as we know, the deity is non-different from Krishna. And Krishna's paraphernalia is non-different. His name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, it's all Krishna. So the deity worship has been given to us to help us fix the mind on Krishna, because we are not able, nobody is able in this age of Kali, very difficult, maybe a few, to practice properly the yoga process and quieten the mind. And in this way, by meditation on the super soul, But it's a very rigorous, very difficult, physically difficult, mentally difficult, in every way difficult, the yoga process. So better to send the negative process. Don't do this, don't have your eyes distracted, not your ears, not your sense of touch, not your taste, not your smell. Shut it all down and just meditate on the Lord in the heart. Very difficult. So rather, the devotional process is don't shut off your senses. Engage your senses in something better. So the example, and we have given that example many times. A child, let's say in the Bhagavatam class, is very naughty. And generally the intelligent children, they are naughty. It's a Srila Prabhupada says like that. If a child is very restless and naughty, it's a sign of intelligence. They're not engaged properly. Children need engagement. So therefore, it's a good example. If the child is very disturbing and naughty and running here and running there, to discipline the child. Don't do this, don't do this. Sit still, don't move, don't speak. And it's difficult. The child cannot do that. And we take his toys away and everything, then he's just starting playing with his fingers. It's restless. So the mind is so restless. The child, a young child, telling that sit still, maybe half a minute. But then again, the restlessness comes up. So we are also restless. So how can we practice the yoga process? Sit still, sit in the asana, don't slouch down, keep the body erect, don't open your eyes, don't close your eyes, keep them half open, don't look here and there, stay on the tip of the nose. How difficult is that? So, but if you give that child a different engagement, let's say the mother is very intelligent or the father, gives that child a coloring book. The child who was running here and there and everywhere and being so restless, okay, sit down, here's a coloring book, here is some pens and crayons. And that child is, in a positive way, is completely absorbed in activities, in positive activities of coloring the different picture in the coloring book. So this is an example of positive engagement. The negative with a child, don't do this, don't do that doesn't work. So therefore, Arcana is a positive process of positive engagement. And if we are positively engaged in Krishna consciousness, in the Arcana, it's so important, particularly at the beginning of our devotional life. Arcana is so important because it helps us and we take it seriously. And it helps us to focus the mind on Krishna with all these different activities like Maharaj Ambarish. So that's the Arcana process. And Srila Prabhupada writes, the senses and the mind require engagement. Simple abnegation is not practical. But that's exactly what the yogi has to do. Abnegation, not engaging his senses and his mind and his action and activities. It's not practical, particularly in this day and age. And then Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, for the people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, that's almost everyone, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is a perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita, yukta. We have discussed that the other day. So, but we have to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, If we don't engage the senses in this arcana process or in any other hearing and chanting process, then the senses will automatically find a naughty engagement with the material energy. If we take the coloring book away from the child, then he will again be restless and doing so many mischievous activities. So let's hear from Rituan is gone. Vijay, let's hear from Vijay. What is your program at home regarding deity worship?
So I start by the pictures of a separate picture of Srila Prabhupada. Then is it on the right or the left? I forgot which was on the line of succession. The of the gurus. So I before I start chanting, you did Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasati Garu Bhakta Vrinda. So I start chanting that in front of the pictures. I haven't got the full altar, but I've just got the pictures. And I've got a picture of also Tulsi Devi, Maharani Tulsi Devi. So I start in the morning by chanting the mantra of Tulsi Maharani. That's the first thing I do. And then I do the before chanting my rounds, pay my obeisances to Prabhupada, Shri Prabhupada, and the line of succession of the Guru Parampara. It's not complicated. It's very simple, really. I also offer a prayer as well, personal prayer, and then I start chanting. So it's not very complicated. Yeah, I do. You can feel the. I'm a long way from Mathura and Vrindavan, but you can still have the connection with some of the pure devotees, like Maharani Tulsi Devi. I heard stories about her, about how she arranged the pastimes. Vrinda Devi, she's called Vrinda Devi. How she arranged the pastimes for Srimati Radharani and Krishna, the most confidential pastimes, and heard some of the confidential stories about her, and even how she got that they arranged like a marriage ceremony for her because she was so good at arranging things and very pleased. So they arranged a marriage ceremony with Lord Krishna. So she's a very, very exalted. I'll get the feeling she's very, very exalted. Very dear to Krishna's heart. Yep. So I think, yeah. So that's some of the things I do, really.
Thank you, Vijay. Yes, that is very nice. So you have your own way of archana, deity worship, arranged in a way which is practical for you. There is some engagement in the morning. What about you, Ritwan? What is your daily process of archana? As we have heard, it's so important to keep the senses engaged in the service, in the archana process. Ritwan, Prabhu.
Prabhu, can you repeat the question again, Prabhu? I went offline.
Yes, I know. Vijay just told us what is his archana adapted to his situation, with pictures and a picture of Tulsi and what he does in the morning. And if you can describe a little bit, what is your Archana process, daily or weekend or whichever? What is your
Right.
engagement in Archana?
Right. Actually, in the morning, either like, Amritarate or here, now my mother is here. So either of them, they do the Aarti, like Mangal Aarti, then Tulsi Aarti, and Narasimha Aarti. And then I do the, before going to office, I mean, to my hospital, I do the Guru Puja. And then we have small shaligram. So Amrita Radhe does the Abhishekam, and my mother has got deities, or small deities of Radha Ramanji, very small deities whom she carries. So she does the Archana, in the sense bathing the deities every day. Apart from that, in the evening when I come back, usually if I come back before 6 o'clock, 6:30, I do the Arati, and Padmanabh does the I do the Sandhya Arati, Gaur Arati, and Ashingadeva Arati, and Padmanabh does the Tulsi Arati every day. If I am late, if I'm working late, then either my mother or Amrita Radhe does the Arati. And what I do as my own service to the lordships, Radha Gidhari and Gaurnitai, I bathe them every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then like an offering bhoga in the morning, regularly, morning, afternoon, and night time. That's done by Amrita Radhe and my mother, my mother-in-law, and others. They also help. So this is more or less what we try to maintain. Yeah, like that.
Thank you very much, Ritu and Prabhu. So as we can see, that's quite an elaborate process is going on. The whole family is engaged. The children are engaged. Everybody, mother-in-law is engaged. Everybody is engaged in some ways, which is practical. And Ritu and Prabhu, when adapted to his work schedule, he is then engaged outside of his work as well. So this is beautiful, because this Archana process is so important. It has been given to us. And Krishna, when he was present 5,000 years ago, he instructed his great-grandson to put deities of himself, of Krishna, in different places all over the area. And these deities have later been established, and so we could say the deity worship started there already, because the deities were made according to those who made the deities. Rajanath, Krishna's great-grandson, he had, I believe so, he had seen Krishna, his features and everything, so the deities are done accordingly. We have descriptions of Shastra. It's not the deities are. Sometimes people say that's idol worship. What's the difference between deity worship and idol worship? So that needs to be, if anybody asks you or brings that up, you need to be able to answer or explain what is deity worship, idol worship. Idol worship is like the Israelites. When Moses goes back a long time, he was on the Sinai mountain and received the tablets with the 10 Commandments and all of that. And he was away from, alone he was on the mountain, Sinai. And in the meantime, all the other folks, they became lazy. And they proposed, why don't we just make a deity of a golden calf, so we have something to worship? So they worship the golden calf. Not reference to the scriptures, not authorized by Moses, not authorized by anybody. So just pure speculation. So if we engage in some deity worship and we just make up any form and worship any form, that is speculation. So the deities are not like that. The deities are done exactly to scripture, exactly to Shastra, with all the features. And there are some persons, Jaipur and otherwise, who are expert for many, many generations in carving those deities. And then the deity, it will get installed. It's Krishna will be called with an elaborate ceremony. Their eyes will be bound, blindfolded, and then with certain mantras and kushakras, different parts of their body is touched. Krishna is called into the deity in the installation ceremony. The only exception is Shaligram Shila, as Rituvan Prabhu has mentioned, and Giriraj Govardhan Shila also. These are Krishna directly. They don't need installation. A stone from the Gandaki, Kali Gandaki, black stone, Shaligram, Shilas. There are different Vishnu incarnations according to different marks and chakras on them. So they are always Vishnu, no installation needed. And Giriraj Govardhan is also Krishna. He says, I'm Giriraj. He touched Giriraj. He lifted it for 7 days with the left hand, with a little finger. So, but all other deities are installed. The different installation procedures too, like sometimes Chakanat, not like in Puri, where Chakanat is worshipped all the time. Sometimes devotees worship Lord Chakanat only for Ratha Yatra. So there are certain procedures and mantras to, after Ratha Yatra, Chakanat is put to sleep. Except there are some ways of they're going to someone's house and worship there for the entire year until next Ratha Yatra. That's also a possibility. If not, Jagannath is put to rest with some certain mantras and procedures, and then before Ratha Yatra, Jagannath is woken up again. So all these different procedures and processes can be done. And even deity worship can be done in meditation also. That's called Manasa Puja. Like the story with a Brahmin, poor fellow. He could not afford even to get a lamp to offer some nice food to. We had no deities, he had no paraphernalia, nothing. So poor fellow he was. And in a discourse, in a discussion, he heard that one can worship the Lord within his mind. We never heard that before, just by meditation. And he thought, well, that I can do. I have a mind, so I can worship. Oh, I learned something. So after hearing that next morning, he sat down near the Ganges, on the bank of the Ganges. He closed his eyes, and in meditation, he brought some water from the Ganga in pure golden vessels. He was a poor fellow, he had nothing. But suddenly within his mind, he had golden vessels. With golden vessels, he fetched water from the Ganga. And then he had beautiful deities all within his mind. He put them on a nice platform, and he bathed them, he dressed them, and he offered some food stuff. And that was going on every day for several hours. He had the most elaborate arcana, deity worship. And he was very happy and satisfied, and Krishna was also very happy and satisfied. Because there's no difference of worshipping Krishna, doing Manasa Puja, or doing puja with our hands and with our senses. And he chanted some mantras also and all of that. Then one day, he prepared some sweet rice within his meditation. And he wasn't sure if the sweet rice had cooled down enough to be offered. He was very, very conscious of all the little details. All the details. Sweet rice, not too hot, be offered. Hot sweet rice, burning one's tongue, that's not. So he cooked the sweet rice, all in golden pots and all of that. First class worship, first class, like a king only can do. And then he tried to touch that sweet rice to see if it has cooled down enough to be offered. And he burned his finger because the sweet rice was still too hot. And he woke from his meditation. And his finger was burnt. His finger was burned and red and painful. He burned his finger in meditation. And physically, that meditation has had a physical result. Just see. But that was Krishna's special arrangement. And while that happened, then Krishna in Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan, he smiled. He smiled because he arranged that his finger got burnt. And the Brahmin was completely bewildered. What now? How is it possible? I'm meditating and suddenly my finger is burnt. And then Lakshmi, she asked the Lord, why are you smiling? And he explained, bring that Brahmin here. He was so pleased about that Brahmin because he was so sincere. He was a poor fellow. And so that Brahmin was brought in his very same body, material body. He was brought on a flower aeroplane to Vaikuntha. That's also possible if Krishna wants. We don't have to leave our body and then go into Vaikuntha. If Krishna wants, okay, he's fetching us. Like Achamil. Fetching us, okay, come home. Go to Vaikuntha. And then Lord Narayan explained everything to Lakshmi. So obviously Lord Narayan was very pleased about this Manasa Puja. So, but we shouldn't be lazy. We're doing Manasa Puja, although we have all the facilities, material facilities, we have enough funds to purchase some nice foodstuff and all the paraphernalia and all that. Not like Srila Prabhupada has been invited to a very rich gentleman's house. And the rich gentleman, he went with a group of devotees. Srila Prabhupada was always with a group of devotees. A devotee never goes alone. So he went. And then that rich gentleman showed him all around his house. He was very proud. Marble everywhere, and the walls and pillars, pillows, and everything very nicely. And then at the end, he showed him his temple room, where the deities are. A small, tiny, almost a closet, tiny little room. And we showed him all the big rooms for his enjoyment and living rooms and lounge and everything, big, opulent. And then Krishna, he showed him Krishna's room, which was very tiny, small, almost a closet. And then later on, Srila Prabhupada explained to the devotees, said, not like that. If we really believe Krishna is a proprietor of our house, never mind, we have a picture altar, or we have deities in the house. Our meditation and our understanding is Krishna is a proprietor of everything in this house, including myself, my wife, children, everyone. Krishna is a master, Krishna is a proprietor. And not Krishna gets a small corner somewhere. Well, that was a very instructive story. So according to our means, if we are rich, we have to do very elaborate Arcana, deity worship. If we're poor, we're doing accordingly to our means. But deity worship has to be done. So we heard Rituan Vichai. Amit, what about you? How is your deity worship looking like? Let's hear.
Okay, Prabhu, sorry, I couldn't. It wasn't unmuting. Yeah, can you hear me, Prabhu? Yeah. So, Prabhu, I kind of keep it simple. I just have a Bhagavad Gita, and I will do my rounds with the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, carry on.
I don't have I don't have like, yeah, I don't keep photos because for me it's part of my detachment. So basically I would do my chanting, and then I think, yeah, I keep it very simple.
The question would be, why?
I don't feel the need to. Whenever I want to chant Hare Krishna, I will. I can do that many times a day, and I automatically would chant Hare Krishna when I need to. If I feel like my thoughts, to keep my thoughts in control, I will automatically say Hare Krishna, and then I will then think about verses, and yeah, and then it gives me control.
Yes, but we should engage in some type of deity worship also. That is a process. It may be very simple. You said previously you had pictures of what picture of which deities you have?
No, I mean, growing up in my family, we used to have a lot of, well, different deities, all the different Hindu gods. Along with like Krishna, we used to have focus of Krishna. But I think sometimes then people start worshipping the picture and they treat it as real. And I think to myself, this is going against detachment, because you're then becoming attached to the picture and the actual, the different idols.
Okay, there is no harm. The opposite. We're getting attached to the picture. It's not that we're getting detached from the deities, from the picture. The picture is also deity in a two-dimensional form. No, as we have heard from Maharaj Aparesha. It's not detachment like the yogi. The yogic process, that's detachment. But the devotional process is so much more easy. It's positive attachment. So there is no harm of getting attached to the picture. The devotees are attached to the deities in the temple, very much so. Look at Vaishnav Mataji. How much is she attached to Shri Nitai Sachi Sundar? So that's a positive, because it's not material. The deities are not material, they're fully spiritual. It's Krishna himself. So how can it be any negative to get attached to Krishna? Either in his three-dimensional deity form or in his two-dimensional picture form. So deity worship will help us. Some sort of arcana like which I had described, and quite elaborate like Rituan Prabhu has described. And I know Jayanti Bai when I'm at their house. It's been a long time, Jayanti Bai, but I will come. Then they have a beautiful room and an altar, beautiful altar, and the deities are regularly bathed and taken care of, Radha Krishna. And of course, you spoke about your family of a Hindu altar. That's one thing. We don't, as devotees, we don't do that. We don't having on our altar Durga, Kali, Vishwakarma, and so many devas. We worship Krishna directly, not all the 33 million demigods. Just Krishna, simple, like you explained before, Amit. have a picture of Radha Krishna, or even better, Shri Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, having a picture of Nrsimhadev and picture of Prabhupada or the Parampara, that will do. That will do. And if you can, even in the morning, you just offer a flower. Flowers, surely in the back garden now in the summer, there's some flowers, offer a flower. And offer your food. Of course, we know we can offer our food without deities, just by meditation. But if our home and house will be so much more graced if we have an altar there. And we offer our food in a little plate in front of the pictures or in front of the deities. All this engagement, we heard from Ritu, and how much everybody, whole family, everybody is very much engaged. We are not impersonalists. We are very positively engaged in the Arcana and the deity worship process. Is a very important thing. Why? Because deity worship will purify our mind and senses. Sometimes devotees have been a long time on sankirtan. Sankirtan, book distribution, they have been going all over the country, in their car, in their van, and there's so many books. And once the books were, the stock was distributed, then they came back to the central temple. And then Srila Prabhupada said that those devotees should be pujaris on the altar. Because while away and interacting with so many materialistic people, distributing books and having devotees who are on tour or book distribution, they're doing their morning program as well. That's also the beautiful thing, when we have deities or picture altar morning program. The morning program may not include the arti with lamp and incense as in the temple. It may be just a morning program, maybe just be sitting down and chanting Hare Krishna in front of our altar. It's a focal point, the altar. It's a focus. Picture altar, deity altar. And we sit down and we chant in front of the deities, in front of the picture, in front of Tulsi Devi, Tulsi Maharani. And our meditation will become so much more potent because the mind is fixed. So Srila Prabhupada introduced the deity worship. And just out of that obligation, we should do it. So you can improve your deity worship. And I know you're not alone at home. You're with your brother, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Those that may cause some difficulties, but I'm sure you have your own room.
Yes, Prabhu, we have our own room, yeah.
So you do the altar in your own room. You don't have to force yourself on your brother. He may have different understanding, whichever. So do your little altar in your own room. That will be nice. You will see if you engage a little bit in this Arcana process, and an elaborate explanation how to do the Arcana, then you will feel that your attachment to Krishna becomes so much more potent and personal, becomes very personal, not yogic, impersonal. Yes, this yoga chapter is there, but at the end of the yoga chapter, Krishna says the best of the yogis is the one who is a devotee, basically. That's what Krishna is saying. I've explained to you, Arjuna, all these yoga processes and postures and breathing and staring on the tip of the nose and all of that. But the best of yogis is a devotee. So the yoga process is a bit of an impersonal process. And so we, as devotees, we are not advised to practice a yoga process. And Krishna says, just engage in devotional service. That's the best. Okay.
Yeah. So when we were younger, we used to do that, and we used to have a little Krishna idol, Krishna figure, and we used to, do that in the morning and bathe and everything. But then I think later you find that when people, say, I don't know, something happens, you're running late, you forget to you're going to work, and you forget to bathe, or you forget to, then people start feeling guilty that they've actually left something at home, not eaten. I find that a bit against the process of attachment and detachment, because now you're attaching yourself to um, the guilt of not doing something became part of, people's kind of thought pattern. And I kind of questioned, and I thought, well, isn't that going against the process of detaching yourself from your senses?
I mean, our process is not detachment. Our process is attachment. Like the devotional process is attachment. The yogic process is detachment. But the devotional process of devotional service and Krishna consciousness is a positive attachment to Krishna. So, and Krishna is not an idol. The deity is not an idol. An idol is a imagined form. A deity is an authorized form. Okay, I've given an example. For instance, if you think it's a long way to the post office, and you put up a red box in front of your house, exactly, maybe you buy even an old letterbox somewhere on the Kabul sale or whichever, and you put it up in front of your house, and you think, wow, now I have a beautiful post letterbox right in front of my house, and you post your letters inside, and other people post the letters inside. These letters will never arrive at the destination because this post box is not authorized. It's just a speculation. It's like an idol. Krishna is not receiving the service when we just make an idol. Or the post office is not picking up the letters if we're just speculating, putting up an unauthorized letterbox. But as soon as a letterbox is authorized by the post office, the postman will regularly come and picking up the letters. So deities who are installed, or pictures, authorized pictures, these are like the authorized process. Krishna will receive our service. How? I mean, we engaging in devotional service means we're engaging in service. We're doing something, not just thinking. We're doing something with our senses, we're doing something with our hands, with our legs, just like Maharaj Ambarish. So that's an authorized process. And this is beautiful. Hearing, he was mopping the floor, touching the bodies of the devotees, smelling the lotus flowers. How can we, if we don't have any deities to offer flowers to, so how can we smell the flowers? How we can engage our sense of smell in the service of the Lord? How can we engage our sense of touch? How can we engage our tongue? Then it becomes all very impersonal. Yes, that Brahmin, he did that all in meditation, but because he had no funds. But we are not like that. We are not such poor fellows that we cannot have proper deities and doing some nice deity worship. Of course, we can do some Manasa Puja, but we have to do it, right? We could do that theoretically. You're sitting down for an hour every morning and you closing your eyes and you're doing the deity worship. You just in your mind, you having some beautiful deities and you bathing them with scented water and you massaging them with oil. And why is that important? Because if we want to go to the spiritual world, if we want to go to Goloka, that's what we do. What are the cowherd boys doing? What's the sakas? What's it doing in Goloka? They're massaging Krishna's legs. They're fanning Krishna. What we're doing with our deities? We're massaging Krishna's legs, we scented oil, we're bathing Krishna. What's Mother Yashoda doing in Goloka? She's bathing Krishna in golden vessels and all of that. Of course, we can meditate on that, but we have to do that. We have to do that meditation regularly. We're devising a Manasa Puja process. If we somehow or other, we cannot do it in a physical way, but a physical way that will help us. And the other point, you mentioned, yes, we had in our family life so many deities, so many, and Hindu altar. No, we don't want an Hindu altar. A streamlined altar. It's authorized. What Srila Prabhupada gave us, exactly what should be on the altar. Gonitai, picture of deities or Radha Krishna, and Lord Nrsimhadev for protection. We should not forget an important point. A picture, we might think a picture is just a picture. That's not Krishna, but that's not the reality. The picture of Krishna and Krishna are non-different. The deity and Krishna are non-different. Krishna is the deity. There are many stories when, and not just, they're not fairy tales, they're real historical stories. When, who was it? A great Vaishnav, very pure devotee. Gauridas Pandit. It was Gauridas Pandit. When on some occasion Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are Krishna himself and Balaram, when they visited the house of Gauridas Pandit, and he was so attached to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, he had deities of Gaura Nitai, like in the Hare Krishna Center, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. He had deities there, which he regularly worshipped and offered fine foodstuff, and according to what he could afford, and like Rituan Prabhu explains, some Mangal Arti and evening Arti and Boga offerings and dressing and bathing, all of that. So when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came, and he was in total ecstasy, and the Lord was dancing and Kirtan was going on and all of that. And then after some prasadam offering, Lord Chaitanya and Nitai, they readied themselves to leave. And Gauridas Pandit said, no, don't go. You cannot go. Stay with us. It's so ecstatic. Don't go. And then Lord Chaitanya said, but we are there on your altar. Look, on your altar. There we standing. There's a deity in our deity form. And then he said, no. I want you to stay. And then the Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, said, jumped on the altar. And the deities jumped down. And are you satisfied now? No, I want you here. And so it was a total confusion. And Lord Chaitanya very clearly, he made it so clear. The deities and I am non-different. Non-different. We have so many stories. Those are stories of the boy who offers the sweet rice. And while his father was away, and after the offerings, the sweet rice was still, or not the sweet rice, the whole boga offerings, the whole prasadam was still there on the altar, and he didn't really understand. And he said, oh, Krishna hasn't eaten. When my father comes back, he will beat me. He'll be not happy. So he again went in the altar room and prayed, please, Krishna, accept this prasadam. And that happened 3 times. And then Krishna, he ate the prasadam. We may think it's a deity, it's just an idol, it's just a statue. No, Krishna is not just a statue. He ate. Normally, Krishna doesn't show how he's eating. He's eating with his eyes, he's hearing the prayers, and this way he's eating. But sometimes it happens. Krishna is eating, physically visible. The plate was empty. So that happens. And many years ago, it was going all over the newspaper, said Ganesh, he was drinking milk on a particular day. And the temple they gave Ganesh spoons full of milk, and that milk disappeared. And that vessel was empty. So there's so many things. It's not as we think. Spiritual is something unexplainable, and material is touch and form. Or take the example of prasadam. Why we are so... we are offering food to dolls, to a doll, like little children? No. Big Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada from young age on he worshipped deities. So it's not children's doll, idol worship. That's a misunderstanding. And deities can do incredible things. They can reciprocate, and they do reciprocate. Some deities are more reciprocal, and others not so obviously, not so much. So we should clearly understand, if we don't have that concept of the deities of the Lord and understand the deity is not different from the Lord, and his name is not different from the sound of Hare Krishna is not different from Krishna, then we have a strong tendency to the impersonal path, which is not very helpful. Impersonal realization is just the beginning. The beginning is incomplete. Yes, Krishna is impersonal also, but Krishna is also very, very personal. Ritwan Prabhu, you want to say a little bit on that? Elaborate a bit more.
Yes, Prabhuji, just as you nicely explained, that deity worship is basically deity and pictures. All of them are the same in the sense they are non-different from Krishna. And I have heard from Jaranivas Prabhu once is that, as you mentioned, that there is this Narad Pancharatra, that Shastra, that book, where everything is elaborately described by Narad Muni, how to do the Archan process. And that has been also explained in details by Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami, mainly Sanatan Goswami. So Jaranivas Prabhu was saying that any deity who has been worshipped every day with love and devotion, even if at home, basically not in the ISKCON temples, but at home, for many, many years with love and devotion, they may not be like, installed, or pran pratistha has been done in according to Narad Pancharatra. But if they have been worshipped by a devotee, following the orders of the spiritual master for a long, long time, even then that deity is to be considered as non-different from Krishna. So deity or even picture. So they are non-different. So you mentioned to Amit Prabhu that our main goal is not detachment. Our goal is to get attached to Krishna and detach from material things. So Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj also mentioned that this is like a pulley system. So the more you get attached to Krishna, the more you get detached to matter. So just like the pulley, if you pull one side down, the other side will go up, and vice versa. So material things and attachment to Krishna is just like that. So even if we have a picture of Krishna, because we got trained when we were in India, we got trained in Namhatta in Mayapur, devotees coming from Mayapur. So they also mentioned in the beginning that you don't need to invite deities in the beginning. You can just put a picture of Radha Krishna or Go Nitai and just worship them, because they are not different from Krishna. They are non-different from the deities, and they are non-different from the original Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna and the deities. And Janivas was also mentioned because there was one question devotees put up, that home deities and temple deities, are there any difference? So Janivas was saying that there is no difference between home deity and temple deity. Moreover, temple deity is definitely worshipped according to Pancharatra, but home deity, basically you can, as because the deity has taken incarnation, or is an avatar just to receive your service. So the deity also is very merciful at home. So you can schedule your worship program around your daily schedule, and Krishna will be pleased. So he was mentioning, in that sense, home deities are more merciful than temple deities. And one thing is very, very important: whatever you do, offering bhoga, offering tulsi, offering flowers, it should be accompanied by Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna. So this is what I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. Beautifully said. Yes. That the whole verse today is about positive attachment, like that paragraph of King Ambarish. Positive attachment, engaging with actions, with his hands, with his feet, with his body, with everything. And the yogic process is detachment, in a negative detachment, and Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear here. Transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind means that what Ambarish Maharaj did, or deity worship, as described above, is a perfect process for transcendental achievement. So to progress on that path, the senses require engagement. Simple abnegation is not practical. But the whole verse today is about positive attachment. Sometimes we might think Krishna consciousness is all detachment from material things. Yes, but we don't practice detachment. We practice attachment, and the detachment will automatically follow. As an example, many times repeated, the monkey who has stolen your shoe in India, in Vrindavan or wherever, he will not give it back. But if you throw him a banana, he will take the banana and drop the shoe. So if we engage in devotional service and in deity worship, as simple as it may be, even if it just means a picture and chanting our rounds in front of the picture. If our mind is distracted, that is an advice. If our mind, we're chanting Hare Krishna and the mind is all over the place, look at the picture of the deity of Krishna. Look at the picture of Krishna to focus the mind again. We shouldn't think looking at the picture of Krishna is material, because a picture is material, but because it's a picture of Krishna, it's spiritual. Inconceivably, we cannot really understand that through logic. If we are a non-devotee, cannot understand how a picture is actually Krishna. A picture of Krishna is Krishna. The deity of Krishna is Krishna. But by the effect, we can understand. The effect of fixing the deity within our mind, by that effect, what happens? How we controlling our mind when we fixing, not hearing, of course, also we hearing Hare Krishna immediately. All other hearing of so much gossip is immediately not attractive anymore. It doesn't attract us. So positive attachment, that is a process of Krishna consciousness. sometimes if we come from a religious background, of a Christian background, of Protestant, Lutheran, or even the Anglican Church, they have rejected all the opulent worship. They just, if you go, for instance, in Germany to a Protestant, Lutheran church, all what you see is just a room with some Bible verses in big letters all over the place. And some boards are there with Bible verses. That's all. No focus is there. And if you go to a Catholic church, you find so many statues, so many deities, so many very opulent. So that helps us, and that's meant to help us, because we are not able just to fix Krishna in our mind. If we're very advanced, yes, we can fix Krishna in our mind. I'll tell you a story before we finish. There were some devotees that did regular university programs, right? And so the devotees explained, Srila Prabhupada was very pleased, university preaching to students. But they said, Srila Prabhupada, we cannot rise up early in the morning of doing the morning program, Mangal Aarti and like that. Because these student programs going on up till late at night. So what shall we do? And then Srila Prabhupada said, that's okay. You're doing the preaching program. That is Bhagavad Gita. That is a preaching, Bhagavad Gita. I have given much stress on both tracks. Srila Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita is a preaching, and Pancharatrika Viti, which is a path of deity worship. Both are necessary. But we can do, engage in the Pancharatrika Viti, in the preaching, fire, without the deity worship, but we cannot engage in the deity worship without the preaching. Then it becomes sentimental. Both are needed. But then he said, don't preach like this. The devotees will not understand. They will think they're attached to the deity worship, perhaps in the beginning even in a sentimental way. That's okay. That's okay. So they will think you neglecting, you preaching against deity worship. No, we never preach against deity worship. We don't. At very advanced stages of Krishna consciousness, these things are all been done in the mind, and they are more powerful process. What you speak of Raganuga Bhakti and all of that. We are connected directly to Goloka. But at the beginning stages, which we are all at the beginning stages, this deity worship is recommended. It will help us to fix Krishna in our mind more and more and more. Positive attachment. And I think on this note, stop, we are a bit over time. Think about it. Okay. Any question? We take one or two questions. Anyone? Any question? Vijay, any question?
No, I was reading the Brihad Amrita, the first chapter. Sorry?
Say it again.
I was reading the Brihad Bhagavad Amrita, the first chapter. Yeah.
Reading or hearing?
I was reading it.
Okay, you found a book.
Yeah, I found the book. Yeah, I was reading it here. Yeah.
Okay, which chapter? From beginning?
Yeah, the first one, Bhavana Bhumi, the earth chapter, the very first one.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Keep on reading. It gets more and more ecstatic as you carry on. Okay, thank you for bringing that up, Vijay. That brings me to Rituan Prabhuji. Have you started listening or reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita?
No, Prabhuji. I haven't yet started hearing it, as because I'm at present I'm reading the book Circle of Friends. Again, not every day I've got get the time, but whenever I get time, I read. Or at present, I'm listening to one series of Srimad Bhagavatam, like chapter after chapter. It's called Applied Bhagavatam. So I'm planning to finish that and then start this. So
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Please bless so that I can continue reading and develop a taste for that, which I don't have now.
Hare Krishna. So more we read, so more we get the taste. Guaranteed.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else? Any question? Then let's stop here. Thank you very much. We'll see you. Amit, you want to say something?
No, Prabhu, I was going to say no questions.
Okay. That's also a comment. No question. Thank you for being here tonight. See you on Saturday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.